Last time on The Savior's Sister. Leila finally got that damn note translated, and it just told her exactly what she already knew. But she thinks now that the Covarians are up to some shit. We just have no idea what shit. Jenna buries her gaze, and Enzo admits to being a spy, but like, a nice spy, and then Leila gets rid of him. The men fight weeping angels and only one of them dies, and then there's some dinner and dancing. Okay, I'll sit down and read this book. I'm gonna try to read 2 chapters, because one is short and one is long. I really hope that I'm managing to make these read-alongs entertaining, because I am bored out of my mind with this section of the book. I do remember kind of dragging with this section of TSC, so the fact that I want to throw this into the nearest bin, it's so boring, kind of understandable. I feel like some way should have been found to maybe cut out some of these scenes or something. Leila has to be in so many of them. It's just like, ugh, it's so boring to reread the same things. But let's go on. Chapter 21, The Dressing Room. Oh man, Leila hasn't blessed the land in days. She has been too busy lusting after Toby and murdering people, and so but fortunately now she's laying on the ground with her tits out, but the evil is like roiling up just below the surface. She's got somebody new to kill, somebody new in her sights. So you guys know I'm always on the lookout for little things that we can do to improve our writing, the flow of our writing, get rid of unnecessary words, and here's one of them just, to keep in your back pocket. Foot tapping against the floor. I think you could just say foot tapping. Against the floor is implied. If it's tapping against something else, you could say what that thing is, but just saying foot tapping definitely implies that it's the floor. Oh, here's poor Asher again.
Part of the team, I can help out.
She verbally berates him for not coming to her rescue when she was having her blood drawn, when the people that were attacking her are like his boss and several guards. I would have been standing there completely baffled as well. I stand Asher. He doesn't deserve this. Nobody deserves the treatment. Leila takes some time to convince the servants to pull curtains and shutters over all the windows because she doesn't want people to see her glowing, obviously. But also the servant's like, oh, she doesn't want them to faint. Which again makes me wonder, do you only faint the first time when you see her glowing? Or, do the weak-willed faint more than once? Magic system, who is she? We don't know her. Uh-oh, Leila might have to kill somebody who's not just completely despicable. I wonder how she's going to handle that. Because she finds Caster, her next target, in the kitchens helping make food. And it seems like he might not be an absolute jackass. People are always heading places in this book. Other reviewers have mentioned it as well. They don't walk anywhere. The senator headed through the palace, heading for the exit. I would say perhaps the senator carried on through the palace, or something like that. Mix it up. Jenna leans too hard on the same ticks over and over again, and that's just something you have to get used to policing in your own work. Sometimes it can be hard to find, but sometimes if you know you have a tick, like a lot of my characters laugh all the time or smile all the time, then I will search that word and go through my book and change or eliminate a lot of those. There's probably still a lot. So if you know you have these things and you actually understand that this is an issue, then you can go and hunt them down. So now she's just stalking him through the palace. I'm not sure why. I guess maybe she needs to see where he goes because he's supposed to meet with some Covarian spy or something? Dang, she stood in the doorway of the kitchen watching him bake for so long that she saw him kneading the dough for sweet rolls when she first found him, and now he is eating those sweet rolls that he had baked, it says, hours prior. So she literally stood in the doorway of that kitchen hiding for hours. I guess luckily no servants came by and were like, oh, the savior just lurking in the kitchen. Then she catches sight of Tobias, is immediately so horny for him that she loses track of the guy she's following. As an asexual, maybe I just don't understand, but if someone's trying to kill you, or is going to be complicit in your murder, yeah, the guy you like is hot, but the guy that you're following probably more important.
She needs to sort out her priorities.
Okay, Caster is officially, fast becoming my new favorite character, because he, does things and has interests. He likes to cook. He does his job. We watch him do his job. And he has realized that Leila is fucking following him all day. And he went to her chambers and he was waiting for her. So, Caster, 10 out of 10 so far. She's probably going to kill him, but best character. It's that easy. It is that easy, everyone, to make an interesting character. Why is Jenna so bad at it when it comes to her main characters? Maybe it comes down to her wanting us to feel a certain way about her main characters, versus, like, with Caster, we could see who he is through his actions. And with her main characters, she wants us to trust her when she tells us who they are. That's my theory. Now Caster's being, like, super fucking smooth. Probably in a murderous way. Like, I think we're supposed to be intimidated by him, but I'm like, Caster can get it. Although he does think that because she was following him all day for the first time ever, that she wants him, which, I mean, in this palace, I guess I do believe. Anywhere else, no. But here, in the horniest palace in the world, yes. Honestly, Leila, just have sex with Caster. He seems cool. We gotta make Caster super rapey now because we have made him such an interesting character. Honestly, he'd make a good ally. He tells her his backstory because we gotta get that exposition out there, but he is the only commoner in her father's cabinet, and he climbed his way to nobility. So, like, if she was smart, she would make an ally of him and be like, okay, cool, you understand coming up from nothing, so I'm gonna turn this into my favor somehow. Maybe something like, my father doesn't value you, or if he likes power, he seems to like power, she'd be like, yeah, my dad's great, but he doesn't have a real power. I have the real power. I have the magic, and I can take you way farther than being one of my dad's senators. Like, flex a little bit, Leila. Use some of that clout, girl, instead of just murdering everyone. He just said his deepest desire is to serve her, and yes, he said it while trying to be sexy, but also, she slaps him across the face, and I'm like, girl, why are you wasting a perfectly good blowjob? Caster gets the point. He does get the point after he's been slapped. Most of the men in the labyrinth, all of the men except Toby in the labyrinth, would have continued to try to have sex with her. So you don't want to have sex with me, that means you're trying to kill me. Like, Caster, my boy, you are the best. Why are you about to die? Oh, Caster, oh my gosh! Make Caster the main character. Someone sign a petition with me. Caster is the main character. While he was, like, running his hands up her legs, insinuating that he was going to lift her skirts and give her a little attention downstairs, he stole her knife from her thigh sheath. And I love you, Caster. Marry me. Yes, Caster, yes! Once again, she's been pinned down, which always begs the question, why is she ever pinned anywhere or trapped by anyone? Just conveniently, sometimes she gets too freaked out to use her teleportation powers, but oh, he's just punched her in the face. Caster. My dream man.
Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you.
He just keeps pinning her down. I don't completely know what his plan is. Girl, teleport. He's pinned her down 3 separate times and she still hasn't teleported. Teleport over to where your knife got thrown. Teleport behind him. Stab. Like, honestly, you deserve to be getting beaten at this point because you are too dumb to use your magic. You are a terrible mage. And then Leila brutally murders him with her own crown. She smacks him with the crown so he backs off, and then she pins him down and smashes the crown, points first, into his face. Caster, our hero, gone too soon. R.I.P. Pour one out for Caster. He will never be forgotten. Also, this is a horrifying and deeply brutal way to kill someone. She smashed his face in repeatedly with a crown. So, in the future, if Leila is ever squeamish or weird about people dying, I am not going to believe her. Also, apparently, he was stealing her necklaces. She goes through his pockets after she's brutally murdered him. She's fine with his smashed-in face. Oh no, he was a thief stealing her jewelry, and he was a little bit creepy, but in the horniest palace in the world, it's not a huge leap to assume someone wants to have sex with you. Then she made it very clear that she wasn't interested, and he backed off, and the only reason he was fighting with her is because he knew that she was going to try to kill him. And she did. But now she's going to be all mad because he stole her jewelry. And we're supposed to be like, oh yes, Caster, a bad man, because he stole her jewelry. And I'm like, I can't feel sorry for you, Leila, because everyone in this palace is suffering 1,000 times worse than you. Yes, their dads aren't trying to kill them. They're definitely in danger of being killed by you. Alright, we're on to chapter 22, The Jewels. This is a long chapter, so hopefully... Oh dear. Don't know what they did with his body. I'm just gonna assume that Delphi got rid of it for her, like she always does. But Leila's sitting here, like, clutching her jewelry, like, he stole my jewelry. Bitch, this is the worst palace to live in for anyone ever. He probably regrets being a commoner and fighting his way here, because now, well, he can't regret anything, because he's dead now. You murdered him. So Delphi is explaining the men are doing the reverence, which is where they go show off, and I believe that's the moment where Toby, like, does a backflip over Orion's shoulders or some shit like that. I don't know. And then all the women flash him. Delphi feels the need to explain that to Leila. Leila's, like, horrified. Delphi says, don't fret. I'm sure the only tits he longs to see are yours, insane as that may be. And all I can think about is the line from A Knight's Tale.
The moon, at least. Her breasts were not that impressive.
So Delphi's bringing up the very valid point that Leila should tell Tobias who she really is. Let's find out what very unconvincing excuse Leila's going to come up with for not doing that. So she does think that she's going to tell Tobias. She does decide that she's going to reveal it to him, but of course she's going to be interrupted or change her mind or something. Oh, this is the watchtower scene. Okay. This is going to be a repeat. And there will be absolutely no flaming cow catapulted at them from an unseen enemy. This palace is just such a terrible place to live. So Tobias gives her a rose, and she doesn't like it because she likes lilies, because she's not like other girls. And so Tobias throws the rose away over the side of the tower. And this palace is such a terrible place to live that I can only imagine that the rose falls and a servant at the same time just happens to be looking up and takes a rose straight to the eye. He says that he hates the savior, and she knows, she even says that she knows he means Cosima, but she's still really upset by it. Leila is even giggling childishly. She is so fucking hyper innocent. I can't. How was she raised in this palace? Everybody in this palace should be so desensitized to just sex and body parts. So they kiss too much, and she decides that she's not gonna ruin the moment by telling him that she is the savior. It's maybe a little bit cuter from Leila's point of view than Tobias's, but that's about it. I did watch a review, because I'm always curious about what other people are saying, and I don't feel like I'm in much danger of being spoiled since I know what happens since I've read the first book. Someone who had only read this one, they didn't read the other book first, and they really liked it, but it made me super curious about the experience of reading this book first. What if you read the fan fiction before the actual work? Leila's gone back to visit Talos, her basement dad. That's how you know there's too many characters, because if there are too many characters, then they just kind of only show up when it's convenient or when they need to move the plot along, instead of being there as real people who just exist in the world, and also are useful for moving the plot along. Apparently, though, Talos is able to listen in on all of her dad's instructions to the assassins, conveniently. Unclear why. Possibly just because, once again, Brontes is the worst villain. It's because Leila is the real villain. That's what it is. Brontes knows he needs to kill this bitch before she goes crazy and murders everyone. And just is Leila's point of view, so she thinks that he's an evil bastard. And she's the evil one that needs to be stopped. She's too powerful. Even though she saves the realm, he's realized that she's too powerful and she's too dangerous, and she can use her powers to kill anyone she wants. And so he's trying to stop her. New headcanon. And of course she's still clinging to this whole I have to keep pretending to not be the savior thing, because it was the first book. And I don't know if Jenna realized how tenuous it would get. In the first book, you can make up excuses for her, and they're going to be better than the excuses that she came up with in this one. She's so freaking worried about telling Tobias, and how, like, if she tells him and he feels betrayed, that he will betray her. But there is another man in this tournament still who could do that, and she doesn't seem at all worried about him. Her thoughts swarmed within her skull. Well, that certainly is a sentence that someone wrote. This tendency with Jenna's writing to describe things like feelings in a certain way. Like she'll say, anxiety swam through her body, or thoughts swarmed within her skull, or it's always, the feeling did something inside of. And I know she's trying to follow the show don't tell rules, but you cannot do it the same way every time. Describing it the same way every time negates what you're trying to do with show don't tell. No. She brings the corpses of the men she's killed to Talos. Don't know what he does with them. I'm gonna assume he eats them. Yet another reason that I don't worry about Leila in a fight is not only does she have magic, and not only is she apparently the most skilled with a sword, but she can self-heal. So like, why would we ever be worried for her safety? She never asks what he does with the bodies. Good. Great. Don't trouble yourself, Leila. She wonders if he feeds them to the pigs, so now I'm like, my pigs! My pigs are here! By the way, pigs are great for body disposal. And don't worry, Talos is here to reassure her that even though she's murdery, she's the good kind of murdery, unlike her dad who is the bad kind of murdery. I am now 100% certain that one type of her magic that she doesn't know that she has is extreme luck magic. I forget why, but Leila walks in on all the men and Garrick is freaking out because he wants to leave the tournament. Because only now has he realized that he could die. And he's like, I was in the Savior's army, I paid my dues, blah blah blah, by the way, hinting that there is an army. I don't know why they keep an army and what dues he thinks he has paid, because she just said they have, like, not had any military conflict for years, many years, hundreds of years, I think. This would actually be a great thing for Leila to wonder about. She could go, why do we have an army if there hasn't been a war for a really long time? That would be a great way to show that she was intelligent and paying attention to the world around her. But she doesn't notice, and she doesn't pay attention. And then the whole Garrick scene is over. The only reason it's in here is because it was in the first book. But it seems like such a stump of a scene from Leila's point of view. It's like, could we have found a way to skip it? Ah, Raph is still alive. He's come to see her, and she's being rude to him. A surefire way to make sure that he doesn't tell your secret. He's come to gently remind her. He's not being rude, he's not being pushy, he's not being disgusting. He's come to gently remind her that she promised to get him out. And he's like, things are getting hairier and hairier, please get me out. And she's mad at him. How dare he come and ask her to keep her promise? What a dick. Apparently, Raphael is the keeper of the Thessian archives, and Leila, notice what you have right in front of your face. This man could be fucking useful, but she's never going to use him for anything. She's never going to be like, oh my gosh, a keeper of the archives? This guy could be really helpful. He knows the history of my land, potentially things that have been kept secret from me. But she's just annoyed by him.
The finest trade, the finest armies, the finest navies in the world. And what do we have for royalty?
Don't worry though, he ambled into the room. People always be ambling. See, he's already proving his usefulness. He wonders why she's looking at the jewels, and she's like, oh, they're a gift for the Kovarian queen. And he's like, well, in Kovar they don't value jewels, which, by the way, teeny tiny bit of world building, yay! So, like, he's already proving his usefulness, but she's not gonna realize it, and that's gonna drive me insane. Raphael has to be like, hey, because she keeps trying to dismiss him, and he's like, hey, I could help you. And he has to insert himself into the situation, because Leila is too thick to realize that he could be useful. I just don't understand. You don't trust me. I'd forgotten, he wavered. I know it's my fault. I'm sorry for that. What did he do? I mean, he might have tried to flex on her a little bit, to be like, get me out of the tournament, because I know shit. But, like, how is any of this his fault? And she still sends him away. He's being like, I have knowledge. I'm practically gift wrapping it for you. And she's still like, go away, I want to do this on my own. What is wrong with you, woman? And so as Raphael is leaving after being shooed away, she's like, take your knowledge and stuff it, smart man. He still warns her that Tobias is the assassin's current mark. I don't want you to be the savior, Leila. I don't want you to rule the realm. You know why? Because you would be the worst possible candidate. You have no idea how to make alliances. You have no idea how to do anything except kill people. Something basically gift wraps itself and plops itself at your feet, and you're too thick to realize it. I have absolutely no faith in this woman. Oh my gosh. Well, those last 2 chapters made me really angry, but anger is more entertaining than just boredom, so I'll take it. At least I'm having an emotion about the book, even if it's seething rage. Hey, hi, hello, we're back for more of The Savior's Sister. Because I had this pathological need to, when I promise I'm gonna do something, I must finish it, no matter what. So, you guys know that you're gonna get some more chapters of this bullshit. Let's go on to chapter 23, The Hearing. This just sounds gripping. Okay, so in the last chapter, Leila found out from Raphael, who she patently didn't want information from, even though he would have a lot of useful information, that Brontes is going to kill Tobias, the only important information that she could possibly gather. The Senate room appeared ahead. Makes it sound like it just poofed into existence. You could just say she pushed open the door to the Senate room. You already established that she was walking down the hall. So from that we could gather that yes, she would have indeed seen the door before she pushed it open. Sometimes you can skip a few steps and your reader will understand exactly what happened just fine. And this would be one of them. You don't have to have her seeing the door before she opens the door. So Evil Daddy has promoted Dickus the Apothecary.
What's funny about Dickus Dickus?
And Hylas, his former page, onto the Senate. Apparently, either because this is part of a cunning plan of his, or because there are literally so few people left that she hasn't killed that he's running out of options. She's like, where's Caster? And I'm like, don't bring up Caster. My sweet boy. Gone too soon. Okay. I think, this is my understanding, I made a joke when I was reading the last book that the guy that Brontes releases should actually have been just killed.
Law said death was a release, not a punishment.
That whole thing. And it seems like, yes, that is actually indeed what happens. Brontes does release them. But it really was not clear in the first book that that's what happened, and you think he would want to make that abundantly clear to everyone, because he's talking about how he doesn't want to be seen as weak, how he has to kill them, or he will be seen as weak. So you think he would broadcast it to anyone who would listen that his release was actually just a murder. For some reason, her dad wants to get the Brave killed. That's Garrick. I forget. Garrick did something to piss somebody off at some point. I don't remember what it was.
Commander, I just caught Garrick snooping around the access corridor outside the main phaser bank.
Dad wants the Brave killed, and Leila is like, oh, that's disappointing, but I don't care because there's nobody that I like. This is a little confusing, and possibly because I've waited too long since reading the previous chapter, but I guess the Brave being killed is actually separate from her dad releasing somebody. So whatever Garrick did, it must have been big enough to embarrass people, and I probably just looked dumb because I don't remember what it was. But then again, why would I? Because I don't care about Garrick. Garrick is a non-person. He's a non-person to Leila, too. She doesn't care if he dies. They're also still talking about the Sovereign still releasing somebody as well, so I guess he will release somebody as long as it is part of the Sovereign's choice. This is very confusing.
And welcome to
The Sovereign's Tournament.
the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Layla's more worried about it because she doesn't want to go because it's going to be a public hearing and everyone will see her. And all of her work pretending not to be her will be for naught. She's making Wimbledon back her up. The law says that the Sovereign can't force the Savior to do anything. So he grabs Leila. This time he decides to drag her. I don't know why he didn't drag her previously when she refused to go to something. So her dad hauls her out. Apparently this thing is going on right the fuck now. Her dad hauls her out onto the balcony, but fortunately there is like a shade over the balcony, so at least they won't see her glowing. Fortunately her sisters also showed up, and they're like, all for one and one for all. We're going to stand with you so no one can tell which of us is actually the Savior. And Brontes just gives up. He gives up on things at convenient times. Like this time he's like, I'm definitely going to drag her along. But then she refuses to sit in her throne and wants to stand with her sisters. And he's like, fine. Why would he settle for anything less than absolute obedience from her in this moment? Oh, okay. So the thing that Garrick did that was so despicable that he asked to be murdered is he requested to leave the tournament. Okay, I remember that. That was such a blip. That was such a nothing. So they're hearing Garrick out. I don't know why, for entertainment. And Garrick is like, I want to be a soldier. You know, that's the defense he's going with. Like, I don't deserve your daughter, I just want to be a humble soldier again. But again, it brings up the point that there hasn't been war in so long. What does a soldier even do? Again, the language in this. Then why is it you demand to leave this tournament after the dragon put an end to the bear? Bronte spat. After he challenged you publicly? Why did so many report to me that after he called your name, you came running to the palace like a little bitch? It's so incongruous. Why do people let Jenna get away with this? She needs to be stopped. Beta readers, come on now. It's really lucky. Brontes is doing a lot of like, you've let my daughter down. She's devastated by what you've done, you bad, bad man. And fortunately for everyone, he does not decide to ever gesture towards his daughter to indicate which one she is. Even though it would make perfect sense when he's like, look at my daughter, for him to go, look at her. Brontes, because he's only got one eye, his nickname in the tournament was Cyclops, which means that they have Cyclops mythology in their world. Also, he talks about how in previous times when they've had to kill a contestant like this, they've done things like behead them or drag them through the center of the lands, or like all of these big ritualistic things, and then for the brave, they just stab him and then he just dies. When I read this in the first book, it definitely sounded like they were going to have him fight the Drake and Kaleo, maybe possibly without any weapons, and they would get weapons, and that would be really intense, and like he's accused of being afraid of Drake and Kaleo, so it would make sense. But instead they're just like, stab. The people love it anyway, and they're cheering for the Cyclops. And of course she's like, oh, the people all love him, and in a few days I will die in my own home and no one will suspect him. But Leila, you've made absolutely no efforts to convince people otherwise. You know, like her stubborn belief that she does not need to form any alliances, and her hiding away in the palace all the time, makes it impossible for people to believe anything else. So, you know, not to victim blame, but she is a fictional character who was written by somebody who just desperately wanted this book to fit in with the story of the previous book. So Leila having allies wouldn't work. But that just makes her seem like not a very smart main character, and not smart main characters are not my favorite thing to follow. So, whatever, it is what it is. See you later, guys. Well, the weather here in Wisconsin is nice and cold, but here on the channel, the patrons keep us warm. And those patrons are Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Artemis, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Lennox. Huge shout out to all those faithful, loyal patrons, and if you want to be a member of this awesome club, you can join us by supporting me over on Patreon.
I miss you. Oh, hold, was that wrong?
Well, it's up to you, really. It's your funeral. I mean, let her.
Say something about her breasts. Yeah, you miss her breasts.
Her breasts.
Yes, you could, but I would tend to look above her breasts, William.
I miss her throat.